Is it shooting?
Doesn't sound. Oh. What happened? Oh, the disc? Noob.
What's up, Librarators? This is Dick Butt coming at you live from Brain Exploder's garage.
Live.
Not really
recorded
live.
3 weeks ago by the time this gets edited.
It's live to me. So today we're going to talk about the Elite Force H8R. So
thank you for your support.
This gun came out on the market not that long ago, and it's been a pretty popular gun because it's inexpensive, it's pretty solidly built, and for a revolver they made it a little bit more practical than your standard revolver in that you just have to flip this little guy right here and then you can switch your max. It also holds 10 rounds, which is great for CQB, but there's one gripe: the range, not so great. So we're going to take this thing outside and we're going to chrono it, and we're going to show you what range you've got right out of the box.
Let's do it.
We didn't grab footage of it, but this is a CO2 pistol. It shoots at about 320 feet out of the box with .20 BBs. I really like the cylinder design, and it makes kind of carrying extra ammo really easy, and it also comes with 5 additional discs, so you've got 50 shots you can carry around with you with relative ease, which makes it a pretty usable revolver.
Oh, nice.
So for the first test, we're using .20 BBs, and at about 30 feet you can see it's hitting its target every single time. In fact, in the 10 test shots that we took, I don't think it missed a single time. Not too bad. However, once we move back to 60 feet, you'll notice that the lack of the hop in this gun really limits its range because it's really arcing the BBs. Now, I was able to hit the target with my last shot, but I was having to aim pretty high just to get to this distance.
So I'm going to aim where it should be going, and let's see how much drop we get. Here, let me aim up a little bit. Whew! That was about 2 inches above where you should be aiming. Okay, so step one, we're going to go ahead and remove the cylinder. And then you're going to need to remove your CO2 as well.
So basically what we're going to be attempting to do today is to add a hop up to the H8R and see if we can get some decent range out of it. I want to give a quick thanks to Matthew Bowie and the Airsoft Teching Q&A forum on Facebook, who did this mod first and gave me the idea to make a video on it.
Now, does it have screws on both sides? Oh, it does.
What?
There's screws here, and there's screws here.
There's actually a lot of screws in the H8R, but if you're attempting this mod, I'm assuming you know how to work a screwdriver. At least I hope you do. So let's go ahead and skip this part.
So we have all of our screws out on this side, and you can see it's starting to come apart, but we need to get the rest over here as well. So flip it over and do the same thing.
There's a total of 14 screws in the H8R, and they are all the same size, but yes, you do need to take them all out.
Oh, this is
the
the
flash hider.
your little barrel end.
Oh, I see a potential for 3D printed 14 millimeter counterclockwise.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'd love to have a suppressor on the H8R, so if you'd like Brain Exploder to make that, leave a comment below. We were originally going to see if we could just use an AEG barrel if it was the same size, and it is, but there is a problem.
So we can't use an AEG barrel because what this cap does, which I think is what creates the seal for the gas, sits over the end of the barrel and then it covers the window. So what we'll have to do is put a window farther up on the barrel so that when it sits in here, you still get the seal with the gas.
The type of hop that we're going to be adding to the H8R is called the TDC, or top dead center. It's pretty common in sniper rifles, but what we have to do here is use our screw to kind of see where it hits the barrel so that we can mark it so we know where we need to cut our window in the barrel. And then from that point we can add a patch to it, and then this should be pushing down on the patch to create the backspin needed to give the BB some range. Luckily, Brain already has a jig for this, which makes cutting the window a lot easier.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna file away a window here. Very slowly. It's some soft, cheap aluminum. Probably pot metal. So no reason for power tools even. It's going pretty easy. I got a jig here to help us so we don't go too far. Let's see what it looks like.
It turned out really well. We just needed to clean it up a little bit with some sandpaper, and we had our hop window. Pretty good. So what we did here is we cut almost like a pilot hole where the screw is going to sit, just to give ourselves a guide when we want to drill in for the actual screw. Put it back together so you can see our pilot hole, and then just drill in as straight top to bottom as possible. You really don't want to hit this at an angle or it's going to create a problem. If you want to be a true perfectionist, you can even put this in a vise and use a level just to make sure you're getting the straightest up and down hole as possible. What we're doing now is cutting the R-hop patch. Brain Exploder actually already has a really cool video on how to do this yourself, so I won't go too far into it, but I will link to the video on how to cut your own R-hop patches in the description below, so if you need any help on that, please watch that video. So as you can see, it looks like it fits pretty well. We do some further sanding just to make sure everything's looking nice and perfect. And our next step is going to be to glue the patch in. We use a little bit of super glue, and then to kind of keep everything all in place once we have the glue in, our next step is we wrapped just a single band of electrical tape around the whole assembly. Normally you'd have your hop-up unit that would be surrounding this, but since we don't actually have that, the electrical tape will kind of keep everything in place. Just make sure whatever you're wrapping it with, you could probably do this with plumber's tape as well, is not too thick, because the barrel does still need to be able to freely move inside the revolver. The movement of the barrel is what actually allows the cylinder to spin when you're cycling through. So give the barrel a good push just to make sure that it can still move freely inside the unit, as you can see like we're doing right here. Yep, everything's good. Now what we're doing is attaching our top dead center screw. Make sure the nut is going in between the assembly. This will help keep the screw in place as well as the pilot hole that we drilled. And just screw it down so that it's barely touching the patch, so you can start doing your testing. The next step that we're going to do is actually put the other half back on the gun, reassemble it, and then take it out to test fire it. But before you do that, once you have everything together, go ahead and pull the trigger a few times and just make sure it's still cycling. So as you can see here, we put the screws back in, and we're just going to give it a quick test, and yep, everything's cycling and good to go. So let's give this thing a chrono. So like I said before, the H8R was shooting about 320 FPS with .20s, and with the hop, it's going at about 285 to 305, somewhere in there. So it really doesn't affect the FPS all that much, but you can see already that the trajectory of the BB is going a lot straighter and a lot farther. But it was hooking to the left, so we had to go back and take it apart and do some further adjustment.
So what we've learned is the best way to disassemble this pistol is with the screws on the right side first. Take those out, and then take the screws on the left side out, because if you do it the other way, you're going to lose the guts to the pistol.
And you don't have to take the CO2 cartridge out.
Yeah, so if you don't want to have to keep losing CO2 when you're testing it, you don't have to worry about that.
Now here we are at 60 feet, aiming exactly where you should be if you want to hit the target. And as you can see, it's handling it pretty well.
Freaking drilling it.
But what was the final verdict? How far could we actually shoot?
All right, so we have successfully installed a hop-up in the H8R.
Hell yeah.
I was a little surprised. Were you?
Oh, totally surprised.
Yeah.
The stuff always takes forever. You need extra parts. Things don't go right. But 4 or 5 hours from when we started, we got this thing, and it's shooting. We're hitting a palm tree at 165 feet. And you're aiming just down sights. It comes up a little bit above the sight line and settles back in. It's pretty insane, actually, how well this gun shoots now. I don't know why Elite Force
wouldn't put a hop up?
Yeah, it totally works. It's possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
We measured, we used rangefinder for
Rangefinder,
both.
yeah.
And here we're shooting 60 feet. It was dropping by the time we got to 60. So we tripled our range.
Pretty
and
much.
It's probably more accurate too, because it's, you know, it's got that backspin.
That backspin,
on it.
yeah. So one thing to note, what we had to troubleshoot a lot with is your window. You need to make sure that it's lined up right, or your shots might hook a little right or left. What we found is it's opposite of what you think it is. So ours was curving left, so we had to actually turn the barrel right to get it to offset that. But now it's going...
If you're looking from behind the gun, we went more right.
Yeah.
And now it's going pretty dead straight.
Pretty straight,
it's
yeah.
a little counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And what else? We moved the safety out since we just had the gun open because it's a revolver. If it's not cocked, it's pretty hard to fire it off. Most revolvers don't have safeties, but they keep putting them on all these things. So it's up to you. We wouldn't recommend taking it off, but it's very easy. It doesn't interfere with the function of the gun.
Yep, still works great.
For the making the window, use this 3D printed jig that I had from a while back when I tried to do an extended hop, and it works surprisingly well. You just slide it in, pin it in between the vise, sort of flush. So when you're going down, the vise acts as like a guide where you can't file too far in. And we made a perfect little square rectangle window in there, and our hopped it real crudely, pretty quickly, didn't send the top off because there's lots of room above it, and just did a one layer of electrical tape to kind of give it a little bit of seal and keep our hop patch from moving around, and it works.
Yeah. Your top rail's still usable, so if you want to put a Brain Exploder zoom cam on it like we did today, you've got that rail space available.
Yeah, we took up one of the recessed openings here on the rail for the screw. It sits below it, so anything can slide above. You just can't have your locking crossbar in there.
Yeah, in there. But
because in the way. And we used the number 4. I don't remember what length because we started one length and we had to cut it down to the perfect length so it sits below the rail line. And it's just tall enough to where even if you screw it all the way down, you're not going to punch through the R-hop patch or ripping you the electrical tape in there. So you could over-hop like 0.28. We're shooting at 165 feet. You could over-hop at 0.28, but you're not going to screw it so far in that you just bust a hole in your hop up and just have to start over. Yeah, just we're so surprised it actually went well.
Seriously.
I mean, I've done a lot of stuff and it's always a ton of steps. Do stuff, undo stuff, figure out a different way around it. If you drill something like this, like I did the SRS top-down hop, I got it a little uneven and I just had hooking forever. Maybe that's actually why it was hooking, because maybe our drill is not perfectly straight, so it's pushing to the side, so we kind of had to counter it by turning the barrel.
that's possible, yeah.
It's a million things. The hop-ups, they're so sensitive, it's just one way or the other, and you got hooking. But it's shooting straight, it's all tightened down now. So yeah.
So the one thing I would recommend also, if you want to do a mod like this, don't put all the screws back in between testing, because we probably had to take this thing apart 4 or 5 different times, and just put some essential screws in to keep it together enough to test fire, and then wait till you have it shooting exactly the way you want it, and then put the rest in and you're good to go. All in all, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm really surprised. So if you want to yeah, if you want to turn a $64 gun into a 165-foot range with .28 pistol, then follow along and best of luck. And if you screw up, it's not our fault.
No.
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with it.
So cool.
Let's do it again soon, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
Peace.
Peace.